Krishna, thank you very much. If you can give the papers back, please. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Wow, Corona Maisia, wow. Nice to see all of you. Thank you for coming to our Sunday program. Now we're going to have a lecture, and we are very fortunate today. We have Manidhara Prabhu with us. Hopefully he's coming. I just briefly introduce him. Anyone here for the first time? Yes? Wow, already also in Sari. I guess somebody helped you. Nice, welcome. And it's very courageous that you're already wearing the traditional clothes. So let us welcome His Grace Manidhara Prabhu by loudly chanting Hari Bo! Manidhara Prabhu is a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He's originally from Czech Republic. But he has been one of the pioneering devotees here in the Swiss Yatra, in the Swiss community. When there was no temple, no community, he was one of the first devotees coming here and spreading the Krishna consciousness movement by, especially, the distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books. And we also invited him because it's a special time of the year. Before Christmas, we always try to give a gift to people, the most precious gift in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books. And Manidhara Prabhu is very expert in not only distributing books, but also inspiring devotees to try to follow that very sacred practice of sharing spiritual knowledge with others. And today we'll speak about the topic, books are the basis. Hare Krishna, please.
So, English, yeah. Yeah? Hare Krishna. So, I'm very happy to be back in Zurich again, which is for me like very special because this location in Europe was for many, many years not accessible much to devotees. The Swiss government, the policies were very strict here, so only Swiss devotees could actually preach here and introduce others to Krishna consciousness. The only problem was that there were initially not any Swiss devotees. So that's a long time ago. I'm speaking about the 70s and 80s, early 80s of the previous century. And then something very shocking happened. On a certain point, when we look in the history of this movement in this country, Switzerland became worldwide famous. I know that Swiss people like to be worldwide famous. I know this. I don't want to go now into the Swiss psychology. But coming down from the mountains, you know, from a country which had always a very specific status, I noticed that Swiss people are pleased when they become world famous. So they became world famous through the process of book distribution. There's no country in the whole world, maybe when we exclude India, where on such a small space, so many of Srila Prabhupada's books got distributed. When I first time came to Switzerland, of course there was nobody here, but later on, when there was already so many books being distributed, it was the only place in Europe where I practically everybody I met on the street already had a book. People were asking, yeah. I showed them, I have 6 different books. They said, well, I have 2 of these, 3 of these, 4 of these. You have something new? I was shocked. It never happened to me in any other country. At a certain point, the country became so filled up with books that, and people were still buying books. It was amazing. So that was a great blessing. To come here was considered always a privilege, even amongst the book distributors. And it's not very difficult for anybody who gets the glimpse of the meaning and the purpose of Srila Prabhupada's movement to speak on the subject of books are the basis, because they are the basis. Now I could say a few things which you can find being documented in Srila Prabhupada's correspondence and his letters, which are quite surprising. Srila Prabhupada said, I got instruction from my spiritual master. Preach to English-speaking people. That was clear, I have to go to the West. Secondly, he said, whenever you get some money, print books. So I started with that program already in India. Srila Prabhupada, actually, when he arrived in the West finally, the only thing he had was some books. 3 trunks of books. Printed in India for Western. I used to have actually 2 books of that. The first edition of Srimad Bhagavatam, as our Bhaktivedanta Book Trust manager commented on a certain point, a very daring publication from the quality point of view. It was printed in India in times, no computers, no nothing. You know, I saw the printing and editing in India, how it functions. Still, when I arrived 1978, first time in India, book binding, everything was in a very simple quality. I mean, book binding was good. It was like something you should make shoes, you know. It was hands-on, really good quality, book binding. But the printing, well, you know, the printing was, I saw a man sitting with a box with individual letters, having a pile in a box, M-N-R, you know, look at this. And he put them into the box, one after another. And then, when the whole page was laid out like this, with the letters, he tied a string around it, so it doesn't move, and turn it upside down, and that was running through ink, and printing started. Of course, when printing started, the letters started to move a little bit around, you know. So addition of the final product was you could read the Bhagavatam a little bit like this. It was really of that quality. And Srila Prabhupada brought these books to the West because he was, on a certain point, in an entirely uncompromising way, thinking, okay, I have only a few years to live, my family business is finished, at least I can try. Prabhupada never expected to have a movement and disciples even in the West. He didn't came, he said, my spiritual master didn't told me to start a worldwide movement or initiate many disciples. I didn't got such an instruction. He shares it in his letters, this background. But when I came to the West, which was for him something you cannot imagine what it was. Prabhupada never saw in life snow. In India, where is the snow? It's in the Himalaya up there, but in India, snow. I used to live in Scandinavia for quite a while. When we got guests from India in winter, they were fascinated about the snow. For Swedish people, snow is nothing special, really. But the Indians coming, they were going, it's ice cream here everywhere. It's on the trees. They were eating snow from the trees, you know. They were completely fascinated. You know, for us it was like, oh, okay, let's shovel the snow again. Okay, yeah. You know, for Indians it was, I was just thinking yesterday when the snow was here, when our friends here from Tamil Nadu and the Indians, when they sent a picture to Sri Lanka, you know, now I am in Zurich. They must think you are in Himalaya or something like this. Because nobody in Sri Lanka ever saw snow, or to speak so much snow. So that alone was shocking. Prabhupada said, I thought, who painted the walls white? You know, there was suddenly snow in New York. And then the people. Prabhupada was dealing with English people. That was common in India. But not with Americans. Americans were not in India. So the Americans, they are not exactly English. They are, I don't want to go now into American. It will be maybe, I would say some unpolite words. I don't want to use it now, insult anybody from America, but not very cultured place, sorry. What do you know from America is Mickey Mouse, chewing gum and lots of guns. That's basically the culture background. Okay? There's nothing. It's a relatively new country where the invaders were killing everybody on the way, and then they said, this is ours. Here we are. And we are going to teach the whole world about culture. Bang, bang. You know? So I don't want to go more in details, but Prabhupada has chosen to start Hare Krishna movement in America. Nowadays I wonder almost why. Prabhupada could go to England like all his godbrothers did. I was thinking, oh, how it would end up when Prabhupada would start to go to Russia. He couldn't, because Russia was a communistic country, it was closed down. Because we know that even in Krishna consciousness you find a great variety. It's very different when you go to a Russian festival. I was in the last Russian festival I joined in Russia. I gave a lecture to 7,000 devotees. And that was a normal festival. 7,000 devotees. You know? And you are like, oh, I couldn't see the end of the, 7,000 devotees. It's like, I was going, hello, I couldn't even, I felt a little bit lonely sitting there, on a stage looking at the crew of 7,000 devotees. That's Russia. Everything is like another dimension. It's really like going to another planet. When I come to India, it's like going to another planet. I understand actually until today, I never resided in India for a long time, but, visiting very often, I never could understand anything what these people are doing here. You go to Bengal and you go, yeah, it's okay, and they go, well, that means no in the West. In Bengal it means yes. So, everything is upside down, everything is opposite. In India, people there are so many everywhere. So they have no problem to push each other, or bodily contact in India is very common. They go, acha, chala, chala. They push each other into the bus, out of the bus, they just go, yeah, but. I mean, you do this to somebody in Zurich, he will call police, this is too much. So there is quite a difference. And then, of course, people become devotees. Yes, there are differences, but not in the essence. And here we come again to the same subject. Books are the basis. So, Srila Prabhupada explains, and when I came to America, I realized I brought these books, and in the beginning, it didn't look like it's going to be any movement. Prabhupada was accommodated in an Indian family. And then he started to preach in some yoga studio, you know. Yoga was popular already, where some ladies were sitting there trying to practice yoga to lose some weight, you know, something like that. Or there were all kinds of people sitting there, you know, going, actually nobody knew what yoga is. So Prabhupada was giving lectures. First lectures recorded come from this place. Very long lectures, 45 minutes, you know, and not 45 more. Long lectures, very scholarly lectures, obviously to a completely unqualified audience. At the end of one lecture, he's asking for them questions. There's only one question. Swamiji, aren't you alone? Some lady is asking. That gives you some idea how Prabhupada looked like. A lonely Indian man giving lecture to a completely unqualified audience in the middle of New York. Looked kind of lost, you know. So this, you know, and Prabhupada gives amazing answer. He goes, yes, I'm very much longing to go back to my home, Vrindavan. But I have to stay here. My spiritual master gave me this mission. Wherever Prabhupada went, even when he was alone, there was no ISKCON, there was no this movement, he did one thing. He wrote books. He had his typewriter. And even being alone, he was always writing. That's how the first hippies, or the first Bhakta candidates, learned to know him. An old man sitting on a trunk, you know, he had this Indian trunk, you know, this is a sheet metal, you know, box. That was like his table. Then he was his typewriter, and he was just typing, writing. So these hippies were thinking, yeah, well, it's old Indian Swami, you know, that was known actually in America. There were many Swamis coming, you know, at that time. Because Indians are very clever people. They realized, wow, look, if I look like a Swami and go in the West, I grow this long beard, and I mumble something about yoga, they will pay for it. You know, the Indians are very fast. They were so fast, there was such an invasion of gurus and swamis at that time, that Prabhupada said that India has the two biggest export articles, rice and gurus. You know? And Srila Prabhupada was, of course, very firmly detecting they're all cheaters. They come here and they teach people how to push nose like this and that, and people pay for it. You know, yes, you now sit like this and bend like that, and they're saying, oh, this is yoga, this is very important. So, you know, there were so many. And hippies, that was a movement which was open to anything new, change of consciousness. That was already established. How? You take some LSD. That changes definitely your consciousness, very brutally. So actually, the drug business which was going on in the 60s, it was not with the idea to escape or to, you know, to forget. It was to experiment with a new type of consciousness. That's how it started. And of course, what these poor hippies didn't know, that this is addictive, and this is entirely demolishing your subtle body. Especially the chemical substances like LSD. Hashish, you know, they have a joke in Germany on this, you know, hashish makes you completely passive, but what do I care, you know? It's like, you know, but it of course also stupidifying, and it's also addictive to some degree. So, you know, so this was very popular, but everybody was looking for something. And Prabhupada knew that. He said, this is a good attitude, to look for some new type of consciousness. That's a good idea, but the wrong way to go. And he said it very openly in the beginning. He was Prabhupada never compromised anything. He just said it in a very wonderful way. People didn't got mostly upset, some said it, but or he said only that much what is needed to be said for that particular audience. Yeah. of course, when he found a better audience, or more eager and more open, then his preaching accelerated. And he introduced more points, up to the point he started to mention some rules, regulations. I mean, for the hippies, it must have been shocking. Rules? That was exactly their philosophy. No more rules, no more regulation. Yeah? Prabhupada said, no, when you want to make spiritual advancement, you have to regulate your senses. But he always had the book in front of him. Always. So then I can start with how this movement actually started. Prabhupada was walking on a street. And there was some hippie walking on the other side of the road in New York. And he saw, oh, a Swami. That was, New York, it was a place you could see anybody. You could see people walking around naked, you know. There's nothing special. But Swami, it was interesting. So he immediately crossed the street and went to him and asked a very simple question. Are you from India? And Prabhupada smiled and he said, yes. And then he was very interested. He said, and Prabhupada asked immediately back, what are you doing? And he said, well, I'm studying and I'm an editor, you know, editing books. Prabhupada with a big smile on his face. He said, oh, could you come with me? And he brought him to his little room, a little flat. And he showed him, opened a cover, it was a whole pile of manuscripts. And he looked later on Agriva, he said, it was like a whole lifetime of editing, you know. And he said, could you help me with that? So the first person he met, and the first one he introduced to Krishna Kanyan, he introduced to book production. And that was actually all the time his point, all the time. He was always remembered like, and Prabhupada says openly in a letter, he says, well, and then I realized, well, I need help. I'm in a foreign country, I don't know people, and I need help. I have no contacts. In Prabhupada, in India, I have many contacts, but not in America. So I need help. So maybe I will just start to initiate these disciples. I need disciples to help me to produce and distribute these books. Quite amazing, actually. So, you know, so anybody, these first devotees coming around, they were helping Prabhupada first to survive. They were helping with the editing. And then they realized he's planning to publish some books. First of all, he brought books. Oh, it was later on, funny story. They found these books in bookshops, because Prabhupada alone, himself, was the first book distributor in America. He maintained himself like that. He went with his books, you know. Later on, devotees, by already publishing was going on, books were printed in America, or in Japan actually, to some degree, and they came to a bookshop offering these new books. And the lady smiled and he said, I know these books. Srimad Bhagavatam, yeah, I know this. There was a, you know, around 1.5, 2 years ago, there was an old Indian man here. He was selling these books too, you know. And the devotees were like, you still have the books? She said, yeah, I couldn't sell it. He said, can we have them? And she brought up the first canto of Bhagavatam Prabhupada sold to her. And when she spoke about it, she got completely emotional. She said, oh, it was such a nice old man. And he was smiling. You know, and when I bought these books, he was so enchanting. When I bought these books, he opened a little box and there were some sweets inside. He gave me 2. Prabhupada gave her some sweet bowl. You know? She was completely carried away just by remembering how Prabhupada was distributing his books. So devotees, of course, got the books from her, and you know, and so that's actually was Prabhupada. That's how he started. And all the devotees. And actually, Prabhupada didn't know how to distribute the books. He said, my spiritual master didn't told me how to distribute and sell these books. He told me just to publish them. So I'm trying to publish them, but obviously they have to be sold too. How? Prabhupada was thinking maybe some marketing, advertisement and this. But very soon he realized this doesn't really create some customer circle, you know. There's so much advertisement going on, so many books are out there. And to the point where 1 or 2 brahmacharis already, the first already initiated ones, they drove with a car to fill up a car in a gas station. And one of them got the idea, well, you know, why don't we just pay with the books? Because they had the books with them, but nobody knew what to do with them. The books were already around. Devotees were reading them and good, but what to do with them? And there were more and more of them, you know, planned. So he said, anyway, he offered the man on the gas station, instead of paying, 2 books. And the guy looks at him, okay. Then he got the books. That devotee became so ecstatic, in an entirely mysterious way. He came running out of the gas station, jumping in a car and told the other brahmachari, I just distributed 2 of Prabhupada's books. And that other brahmachari was going, whoa. I never saw him so ecstatic. So they had few books more, so they tried more. They came back to the temple, completely in bliss. The devotees in the temple was going, what happened? They were just completely intoxicated. We distributed Prabhupada's books. And they were going, what happened? And then I told them the story about the gas station, and they were like, okay, we want to try it out. 2. And that temple, the first books start to devotees go out on the street and distribute the book. They all came back ecstatic. So the news came around. In the temple, there are more and more ecstatic devotees. So, and why? And they're going, well, we are distributing Prabhupada's books, you know, we are selling them. That was revolutionary. They were going, okay, we are going to try it too. And that's how book distribution started. And it became, Prabhupada called it epidemic. It was going around like an epidemic thing, very fast. So fast that until then, devotees were known as the people singing on the street, you know, and distributing maybe some magazine that was there. But kind of they disappeared. Instead of that, you got devotees going out distributing books. You can find it in Prabhupada's letters. There was a discussion what is more important, to go out and chant Hare Krishna or distribute books. Prabhupada said distributing books. But he said going out and chanting Harinam is wonderful. Both things are wonderful, but book distribution is the loud, long-lasting Mridanga. And therefore, why the root books are the basis. You know, in the last 50 years, I'm kind of walking through ISKCON, this movement. I saw quite a few things coming and going, but the books are staying. It's the only thing which I can say safely, oh, this is staying, this is here. Otherwise, people come and go, buildings come and go, things can change, but the books, they stay. And then it was discovered what the books can do. By the fact that you distribute Prabhupada's books and disseminate to others, all kinds of amazing things will happen. It's almost mystical. Like whenever we start to distribute books, more people came in the door, interested. And they were joining Hare Krishna movement. And I tell you quite frankly, they didn't even read the books sometimes completely. They just bought the books and they got interested. What is this? And then they walked in the door. And our process is not first to read all the books, to understand the books, and then practice Krishna consciousness. This is not even possible. The knowledge in these books is so vast. And the realization coming when you read these books, this is so vast that actually we do it simultaneously. We are studying the books, reading the books, distributing the books, and trying to practice whatever we find in these books. This is all one ongoing process. So, but it's all based on the books. I mean, I couldn't, actually, especially me, joining 1972, you couldn't do anything, and you couldn't say even anything without quoting the book, or quoting Prabhupada directly. Nobody would follow you, nobody would believe you one word. What? Oh, I remember as a bhakta, as a new devotee, sometimes I made a mistake. I said, well, actually I feel. As soon as I said that, some devotee looked at me, he said, what? Who cares what you feel? Well, where is it in a book? That was the mood. It was heavy, you know. And I was like, well, I still feel something. I guess we feel something. Well, it was a little bit fanatical, yeah, you know. But it's not we stop feeling in Krishna consciousness, we regulate and purify our feeling. That's our process, with the help of the books. And actually, when you study our books, they are very full of feelings. They are very, very emotionally based, but it's all on a spiritual platform. Spiritual life doesn't mean that you stop feeling, stop thinking, and stop desiring. Then that means actually then you will be dead. That's dead. Because thinking, feeling and willing is a sign of consciousness, and consciousness is a sign of life. So some people sing the name of renunciation, you know, you stop feeling, thinking and willing, and then you are okay. And then you are dead. It's not at all our process. So when you read these books, it happened and it can happen, you end up being very emotionally affected. Because they described amazing. There's, in our books you find poetry, you find drama, you find love stories, you find anything. Actually, it's amazing. And it's spiritual. When you read these books, your material desire and your material ideas will be diminished and replaced by spiritual ideas, spiritual desires, and spiritual longing. We are all longing for something. Even somebody who is longing for longing nothing, well, he's also longing something. You know, you cannot suppress it. Impossible. But when you get motivated by these books, and these books are very concentrated, very essential. Srila Prabhupada was making very precise choices where the priority will be. So the first thing which came was Bhagavad Gita. That's like the ABC for anybody who wants to practice spiritual life. Without Bhagavad Gita, you will be misled. Because that established the basis of spiritual life. Just to mention a few things, it established need of sense control, need of mind control, need of being properly situated, need basic things. Without that, as Prabhupada said, we are not advocating here some dreamland. This is not Krishna, this is not some dreamland where you kind of dream yourself away from the daily misery. Actually, Arjuna tried to do that. It's in the Bhagavad Gita right away in the beginning. He said, no. I mean, he was a professional soldier. He had to face, most amazing, emotionally loaded situation. As a professional soldier, he ended up standing on a battlefield, looking at his relatives, his friends, his teachers, people who he loved and they were most dear to him, and he had to all kill them. This, we cannot imagine. I just read a whole series of lectures from Srila Prabhupada just about the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It's very psychoanalytical, actually. He's analyzing what Arjuna is thinking there and how actually his concern about this opposing party was relevant and how actually legitimate argument he brought up. Like he said, okay, this is a battlefield, it's all professional soldiers here. Now Kshatriya in a Vedic culture means that he's married, must be. We are speaking about an incredibly powerful man who had not only one wife but many. Polygamy was standard. But, so what will happen when I kill them all? There will be so many widows. And widows, I don't want to get into this now here, in this present days in society I get in trouble. But sorry, lonely ladies walking around are generally considered lonely walking targets. This is especially when you are living in a society of unregulated, lusty man. It's completely normal. It's logical. What do you expect? So Arjuna was worried about this. He said, I kill all the men, there will be all these unprotected women walking around. You know, Vedic culture sometimes is criticized that it advocates woman slavery. Total nonsense. Absolute nonsense. If you want to see some strong women, you have to go to India. I had experience. Especially, I recommend one area, Jaipur, Rajasthan. It's incredible. I walked in Jaipur on the street, a young brahmachari. I was a young boy. A woman comes out of this, and these Rajasthan ladies, I mean, they are covered in gold. They have jewelry from here to there, you know, the rings. They have, you know, and this kind of heavy lady comes around the corner, looks at me, brahmachari walking here, white brahmachari. That was, you know, she was like middle-aged. She said, Hare Krishna, yo, come here, come here. And I was like, I was going, yes, Mataji, yes. She said, come here, come. And she didn't touch me even. She was commanding like hell. It was like police. She lead me to some small street. There was a door open, and that was the house she lived. And she said, sit down, sit down. And I was like, yes, Mataji, yes. And I ended up sitting in this room, and she brought a huge plate with some kind of prasadam. I was thinking, I hope it's vegetarian. It looked like vegetarian. You know, he said, she put it in front of me, said, eat, prasad, eat. And I was like, yes, Mataji, okay. So out of fear, I start to eat. It was spicy. Oh my God, Rajasthan. It's chili and more chili, you know. But I was so afraid, I ate it all, you know. And she looked at me and going, Ma prasad, prasad, you know. And I was going, no, not more prasad. So I finished the prasad, and she was going, Hare Krishna. And that was it. So I walked out on the street, I was going, what was this? That's Rajasthan, you know. And then I laughed. I remember already in my days, it was this propaganda that in India all the women are slaves, you know. They were just sitting in a kitchen, you know. And then I was going, oh, I just met one. You know. Yeah, well, you know, it's all propaganda. Now there are things, you know, I don't want to go now into this because how ladies get abused in the West, oh, that will be easy to illustrate. Very easy. This culture is killing cows, killing women, killing everything. I don't want to go into this. We are supposed to speak about the value of Prabhupada's books. And that's where we find the real human life being described. All in great detail, all established human culture. We just have to read Prabhupada's books. The Bhagavad Gita is the beginning. Prabhupada started with that. Then he came with Srimad Bhagavatam. Never translated like this. In a very, Prabhupada called it scientific way. He preserved the original text. He translated into Sanskrit, printed in Latin, then word by word, each single word being translated. And Sanskrit is a tricky language. I'm not the knower of Sanskrit, but I know it's very tricky. One word can mean many things. So, you know, exactly define the words. Then comes the translation in Latin of the so we can read it finally. You know, us the common people can read what is it, and then it's explained purport on basis of explanation of all the other spiritual teachers of our Guru Parampara. There's actually a dictionaries of that big, where you find commentaries of this, each single shloka being commented upon. So Prabhupada drew from all this, plus he spiced it with his own realization as well. So, you know, this is actually what these books contain. But I know, I'm aware of that not all people have that kind of intelligence and not that kind of time and not that kind of, you could say, peace of mind to sit down and really study the books. It doesn't matter. Prabhupada wanted his books being broadcasted in a massive way. Massive. To everybody, everywhere. Do you understand? No, doesn't matter. Get a book. That was his policy. And he was uncompromising. He said, where are the books? Books, 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 books. And he was, as the book distribution picked up, he was publishing more books. And there was a competition, Prabhupada editing, Prabhupada writing, and translating, and book distribution. Sometimes Prabhupada was always ahead. So he said, if you don't distribute the books, I will stop writing. Everybody was, it was just a constant race. This place here, this temple room, I saw such ecstatic kirtans here. I was afraid that these columns get demolished. This was so heavy here. Why? That was at the end of the marathon, when the book distribution stopped. Devotees came back. They were so ecstatic you cannot imagine. Now why in winter marathon? I don't know. Prabhupada didn't establish the marathon must be in winter. In Sweden, I came to a crisis. I was a Sankirtan leader, When I came to Sweden in 1985, there was -30, -20 every winter for 3 months in a row. So you go out distributing books in that temperature, It's quite funny. You go, because the breath is freezing in the air. By -30, it's like, and you can be dressed as you want. Devotees look like Eskimos, They were like, skiing outfits and all this packed up, and still you get frozen. My -30, it just comes in. I saw devotees sitting in front of the ventilation of the shopping house where the hot, bad air comes out. They were just warming up, and then again, bang, you go out. Everybody's jumping, people don't walk. They just go, okay, it's -30, and you distribute books like that, We had no problem, for them to open a book and saying, what is this? They could never open the book because it was frozen, They were going, very nice book, how to give money, They had these big gloves, There was no credit cards around that time still much. So they always took the gloves off, gave the money and put the glove immediately back. Devotees have special gloves where you can pull the fingers out, take the donation and go again into the contact. It was unbelievable. It was in such a temperature, people don't stop cars. Because when you stop a car, very likely you cannot start it again. Especially diesel, They were running cars all the time. We were just jumping around and fortunately, actually people do take books. Because they think it's awful how somebody coming in a temperature selling books. That's quite unusual. And second of all, they have no time to run away because there's no way to run. Where do you want to run? Everything is frozen. So they are like, okay, everything was fast, okay, it's -30, thank you very much, bye-bye. It was like the marathon. Prabhupada heard about this already in Germany, and he wrote a letter. He said, it's amazing how devotees in these temperatures, in such a cold, can go out the whole day and distribute books. Before I was ending up in Scandinavia, I was starting my book distribution in Germany. And I already met their first Indian devotee. His name was Mahakata. He came from India. And I took him on Sankirtan in winter. I traveled to South Germany here, Schwarzwald. This is like mountain area. I like that place. It was snow everywhere. And he never saw snow. He came from Mumbai. So, and I got such a pity on Indians. He was so frozen in the evening, he couldn't move. In a hotel, I had to put him on a heating to melt him a little bit so he can move, he was so frozen, it was unbelievable. He was stiff, couldn't move. He said, I never experienced such a temperature in my life, So, but he was very brave, he was very bold, he wanted to distribute books. So I sometimes wondered why winter. In Sweden, I came to that point. I went to our GBC and I said, why my winter marathon? We are ruining cars, ruining devotees. By the end of the marathon, after 1 month of this, everybody was sick, lying there. The whole January was one big hospital. You know, so why we are doing this? Why not summer marathon? And he was going, yeah, maybe for that region especially, he was going, why not? So we did summer marathon. All the tourists out there, you know, in Sweden everybody goes crazy because the summer is just 2-3 months, that's it. So they are all this, and we came into this, you know, with the books. We knew where the tourist areas are, you know, and all this. So suddenly, you know, and we could sleep in a car, it was okay, nobody got frozen, it was nice, you know. So anyway, I don't want to be too autobiographic, maybe it's not everybody's lifestyle. But the point is, the books are the basis. And I was asked actually to ask anybody present, please, if you can, become part of this book distribution. Now many may say, I cannot do that. You know, like, oh yeah, anybody can, in various ways. I am coming from a generation, if you didn't even have 2 legs and you didn't distribute books, you were not a member of the Hare Krishna movement, okay? That was the time I joined this movement. But these times are not like that. And it is not what Prabhupada said. You must have 2 legs and you must run the whole day distributing books. He never said that. He just stressed the need of this literature being disseminated in any way possible. So how can one do it? There are so many wonderful ways. You cannot imagine what one single book can do. I saw these books changing people's lives completely. Not even by reading them fully, just by having them. It's really, these books are non-different from Krishna. These books have life. They go around on their own and they change people's lives. I saw it. I saw devotees joining this movement, they found a book in a garbage bag. I give you an example of my godbrother, he is still alive, he is traveling here sometimes, it's pretty true. Anyway, and then, you know how he joined? He traveled from Holland to Germany. He was an artist also, I think so. And he was in a train alone. And then he saw on a shelf there was a small book lying there. Somebody left a small book there. It was called Sri Ishopanishad. So he took that book and he started to read it. He got so excited, he started to read it. He read it, the whole book, it's a small book. He read the whole book. And he was so excited, he said, wow, there's something interesting here. Where's the book coming from? So he turned the book and at the end there was addresses. Published by ISKCON Germany, Heidelberg. So he was going, oh, that's the address of the center. Then he looked out of the window of the train and the train was standing in Heidelberg. So he said, okay, I will check this out. So he left the train, he forgot his trip, found the temple and joined. Immediately. I asked him later on, you had a flat in Amsterdam? He said, yeah. What happened to that? He said, I don't know. I said, you had the keys from the flat with you? He said, yeah, I threw them in a gutter. That's how people joined, you know. I joined like that. I just walked in a door and the devotee asked me, when I was leaving, they're going, where are you going? And I said, well, you know, I have to go back to, I was not with my parents living anymore. I was an art student. I was living in a student flat like this. So I said, no, I have to go to my flat. And they looked at me and said, why? And I had no answer, you know. Because I had some doubts about my career as an artist to start with. You know, I don't want to go into it and insult any present artists, but it's a... I tell you, if you're an artist, there's always a better artist. Okay, somewhere. And there's a constant strife for dominance in the artist community, very distinct, very special people. And actually the artists, I knew they were very special and very good, some of them, But this whole attitude of becoming distinct and special, it kind of annoyed me. I was not attracted to that. And I knew there would be always better artists like me. So what do you do as an artist? In the end, you end up having a job, painting advertisement, Coca-Cola, or you teach art in a school, which nobody likes. That's also. So I knew this. My career is very questionable. So I had no answer. So they said, why did you? And so I came again, and by that time it was even more heavy. They said, he came again. And the preaching was very simple. You got a big pile of prasadam. I mean, I was thinking this is for 5 people. They said, no, you eat it now. That's prasadam. Very important. So, of course, I ate it all. I was completely, wow, never ate anything like this in my life. And then when I want to go, the spiritual Prabhu, he said, now he goes back home, back to Mama. That was really insulting to me, because I was not living with my mother. So finally, I just, on a certain point, I just came in and I never left. Because it was very quick. Because I didn't know where to go. What should I do? And devotees were like, you enter a vacuum cleaner, They were just taking you in with such an intensity. So I felt, okay, I'd rather die with these people. Like being out there alone, walking around, unrecognized artist. Not very good career. So that was my story. And every devotee has his own story. But it all started, I was there when the first German Bhagavad Gita was published. It was like a festival, a big feast. And by that time, even in Germany, devotees didn't really believe we can sell these books. They were selling actually records, vinyl, these round things with a hole in the middle, So that was our Sankirtan. We went out and people liked that. It was and they were actually, our records were very cheap. They didn't know there is chanting on the records, because you cannot hear it on the street. So they were thinking it's like all kinds of music and this, but actually at home they found out is the Hare Krishna chanting. But we didn't care. We sold lots of these records, collected quite some money. But books, and the books were already printed. They were piling up. Then came a letter of Prabhupada. Stop this record selling immediately. And we were selling even his records, we're recording him. He said, no, people will take it just like some magical sound. Stop it immediately, only books. In one Sunday, I remember that Sunday, we had to unload all the records, and then we had the books in the car. We didn't know what to do with them. The only thing I knew how to sell records. And our mantra, or what we were saying to people was quite simple. Hello, do you know George Harrison? Beatles. Everybody knew George Harrison. So he produced this record for us. Very nice. People were thinking actually these records are from George Harrison. No, they were not. But there was one record from George Harrison. You find it actually up there exhibited in a museum. The rest was, us chanting. But we were distributing and it was working quite well. Oh, Beatles, George Harrison, yeah, okay. And then I was with the books, I didn't know what to say. I had no idea, how do you sell a book? So I said the same thing. Hello, do you know George Harrison? And the people, oh yeah, he also likes to read books, and I gave him the book. It worked exactly the same way. But when we came after the first week of book distribution back to the temple, the kirtan was so ecstatic. We were completely melting in ecstasy. Because not even the books, but we did exactly what Prabhupada wanted us to do. And from there on, it was no more records. It was just books, 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 books. So I can only ask or beg anybody, if you want to be a little bit part of this, it's still going on. This is not some exquisite class of few people who run around and sell books on the street. Nowadays we have programs which anybody can take part. Even you don't go out to distribute book, doesn't matter. You know, you can buy a few, give it to friends occasionally. If you still don't want to do that, isn't this is too much, this is too exposing, you know, yeah, then just help devotees to do that. In any way you can. They will distribute the books for you. That was already happening in Prabhupada's presence. In India especially. People were just helping, buying actually the books but not distributing them. They let it to the devotees to distribute them. And you know, Prabhupada fully blessed this program. He said, well, the major thing is the books are paid and they go out. You know. And actually these books we are selling for very cheap price. I mean, you know, today we have an offer for the printing price, practically. This is, you know, when you go in a bookshop, generally books cost much more. We don't care, because the most important is that the books are out. And what they do? Well, like in Switzerland, you could say so many books were distributed. What happened? There should be thousands of people coming around. And I'm confronted with questions like that. And my answer is very simple. You know what? I don't care. It's like seeds. Prabhupada said, the more seeds you spread out, the more the chance may be there, something will sprout. And these seeds, they don't go bad. They sit somewhere. And let's see how the times or circumstances may change. You know, things are changing. You know, yeah. There will be a time, or one of the best times we had, when these books were forbidden. Actually in Germany we faced severe opposition. There was actually an attempt to completely eliminate Hare Krishna movement from Germany. You know, that was organized in the 70s. Police invaded the temple, they took all the money, but they didn't touch the books. So we went out and distributed books again. And the newspaper, the media campaign, you cannot imagine what media can do. You never saw something like this in Switzerland or something like this. All media in Germany was on the same line. Hare Krishna movement, the most dangerous terroristic movement after the Second World War. There was pictures published with weapon storages, you know, hand grenades and bazookas and all this. It was taken in some military camp in an army. And they said, no, this was in a temple. They had a lager of weapons like this. It was all. My picture appeared in one of the biggest German magazines. You know, like I stand on a street with my jacket, you know, and they said, this man, he actually was married. His wife ran away from the sect. And he kidnapped her and forcefully brought her back to the sect. My father called me in a temple and he said, you got married? I was a brahmachari, you know. I said, no, I didn't. He said, but there's your picture in a magazine, you kidnapped your wife. You know, and I said, well, sorry, that's a picture somebody took on the street, but, you know, I have to disappoint you, I'm not married now. He got so upset. It was very good. He never believed since then what's in the newspaper. You know, it was very good for him. He said, how can they do that? You know, oh, they can do anything. Especially the German press was incredible. I mean, the campaign was ferocious. So people on the street, and this is my memory of Germany those days. Nowadays it's different, okay? But those days, the people were so amazing. If they identify you as a Hare Krishna, I came out of the car, tried to distribute book. A normal German lady grabbed me and he said, I got him! I got him! I got him! Police! Then the police came to, and they were going, what has he done? Well, nothing, but they wrote in the newspaper, if you see them, you must catch them and call the police. That was the atmosphere we were distributing books in. And you know what happened? After 1 year after this police action, Germany was #1 in book distribution in the whole world. Prabhupada laughed. He said, the German demons tried to kill Krishna. He didn't agree. So that was his commentary. How was that possible? Well, you know, we were young people, and we took it like, okay, now we do the real Sankirtan. Yeah. So people asked us on the street, they were going like, you are not Hare Krishna, right? They had the book, but you are not Hare Krishna. I said, didn't you read the newspaper? They are all in jail. It's finished. It's over. This is about yoga and something like this, and people are going, oh yeah, okay, okay. We kept on distributing books even more as before. You know, and there were some people who were going, this is the Hare Krishna books, isn't it? You are all forbidden here. And we were going, yeah. They're going, how many can I get? Give me more. The good people got attracted just for the fact it's forbidden. So, you know, it's impossible to stop. The only one who can stop it is actually us. So we can only humbly ask anybody, please, somehow or other, become part of this. Especially, I mean, we take this month of December as inspiration, okay, you know. But actually, it's all over the year. Whoever can do a little bit something, he is doing a permanent contribution to this movement. The books will stay. I will go. I'm leaving tomorrow, you know, by the way. And maybe I'm leaving one day completely. Finished. This body will disappear, I can give you guarantee on that. There's one thing sure, that this body will not be forever. I see it happening already. So, you know, yeah, it's, of course, it's nice to know I'm not this body, you know. Especially, you know, like, my body is today turned 70 years old. It's very nice that I'm not this body. I'm really happy about that. Because the 70 years old thing is, it's proportionally to other 70 years old bodies functioning quite good. But not like it used to function when I was 18. And many people in my age, I cannot talk to them anymore because they are dead. You know, they disappeared. But finished. Now we don't want to scare anybody, but sorry, we will all die. Nobody sitting here will survive. Sorry. It's not very maybe good news, but it's a reality. Okay? Nobody here sitting here will survive. Sometimes they told Prabhupada, this country is really in trouble. They have 60% death rate. Prabhupada laughed. He said, what do you mean 60% death rate? Every country has 100% death rate. This is the reality. So we know that, but we have a very nice information for everybody. It's completely explained and contained in these books. We are not this body. We are eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. I would call it, that's really optimistic news. You know, full of bliss, full of knowledge forever. I mean, who doesn't want that? The question is, we forgot. And now we have to remember again. And once we do remember and we know, then we realize, oh, this is a very nice way to live even now. We have no expectation for the bliss coming from this body or this, but we know where to find the bliss. We know where to find the knowledge. It's all in these books. So please, please, if you can somehow be part of it and help to distribute even one book, it can change so many lives. It can help people. So this is our appeal today, since I was asked to speak on that subject. The books are the basis. Now I could go more and more in detail how Prabhupada established in this movement that the books are basis even from a management point of view. He wanted our preaching being based on book distribution. He wanted that our preaching will be based on what's in the books. You know, some people, they may investigate what is the Hare Krishna movement. You know, you go on the internet, you find all kinds of information. Read the books. This is the Hare Krishna movement. And sometimes you find things which even I can say, well, it looks like the Hare Krishna movement, but it's not. Because, you know, I cannot verify it from what Srila Prabhupada established to be this movement. It's a simple thing. These are our law books. This is like law. You know, if you want to find out what is Hare Krishna movement, that's in Prabhupada's books. And there's another aspect. That's when the first books got published. Prabhupada said, and now we will become respected. It's a quite amazing thing. Even any politician, you know this maybe, politician, any fool out there, when he writes a book, then, you know, people take it more seriously. Oh, he wrote a book, you know. It can be a total nonsense, doesn't matter, you know, but he wrote a book. Prabhupada said even psychologically, it gives us immediately credibility. And he used the communists like example. He said, how, and I grew up in a communistic days, I had the benefit to have a communistic education and capitalistic education as well. The first 7 years I was going to a communistic school, learning how Russian people are super people, and you know, and Mr. Lenin is a holy man. And then I went to the West Germany, my parents immigrated, and then I learned that the good people make lots of Deutschmark, and they build Mercedes, and you know, and get lots of money. But that, you know, by the time when I was 16, I was a total cynic. I didn't believe anybody one word. You know, nothing. Because I thought this is all crazy. So, but one thing I understood why Prabhupada used the communists like example. In my childhood, growing up in a communistic country, if you got a reward, you got a present, it was a book. Books, I grew up with books. Even the simplest man working in a factory, he had a library at home, full of books. Because the communists knew how to, they knew this is very important. And what do they write? Well, you know, you know, you can read Karl Marx, you know. It's so primitive, it's incredible. Is it the Karl